thank you so much, Gina, for agreeing to answer a couple of questions for me about TCAF and about your role at Macmillan and why you like comics so much. I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself. You are Gina with...
I'm Gina Gagliano. I work for First Second Books. I do their marketing for them, which means doing a whole lot of things like advertising and publicity and dealing with the internet and stores and schools and librarians and publicity. And I also work for the Toronto Comics Art Festival. I run their programming for them.
And it's been so much fun to be here, and the programming panel has been tremendous.
Oh, thanks so much.
Well, thank you for letting me be part of it. When did you first start getting interested in comics?
I first started getting interested in comics when I went to college. What happened was I went to this school called Reed College. It's in Portland, Oregon. And they had a library, and the library was a very academic library. It was all the books that related to the subject matter of things that were taught in the classroom. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? The public library, it's a whole several blocks away and only open during regular hours of the day when I have classes. What will I read for fun? And it was very distressing to me. But usefully, I found out that they had a student-run comics library with a collection of comics back from the 60s. And so they had like the original issue of X-Men #1 and every issue of X-Men after that.
Wow.
So you signed up for their comics library, you got the lock to the door, and you could go in and read comics whenever you wanted. And that was the only thing that you could read for fun on campus. So I started reading a whole lot of comics because I usually read a whole lot of regular books, and now I had none of them. So that's when I first started getting interested in comics. After 2 years of reading comics in their library, I ended up running the library because it was student-run. And some of the other students at Reed have gone on to work in comics as well that I worked with. Lee Walton, who does the marketing for Top Shelf, ran the library after me. And we also just signed up an artist at First Second, Angie Wang, who's doing an adaptation of The Nutcracker for us, who also went to Reed and used the comics library and discovered art and text working together there for the first time.
Wow.
Yes.
Reed is like the hotbed of comics fandom into the industry.
And it's also in Portland, Oregon, and they have a great convention there. Stumptown and Dark Horse and Oni Press are also based out there, and so is Tugboat. So
it's an amazing comics community in general.
Yep.
When did is your work through the library what made you decide to look for work within the comics industry?
Yeah, well, I loved comics, and I always wanted to work in publishing. And when I discovered them and started working with them in the library, I said, this sounds really fascinating. And there were so many great comics presses in Portland that I got an internship with Dark Horse my senior year of college, and I worked there 9 to 5, 2 days a week. And so after that, I was kind of like, this is so awesome. Everyone's so excited about these comics, and they're so cool. And miraculously got another job working with comics, which has become my career.
Wonderful. And the way you and I first met was at ALA.
Yes.
And we instantly bonded because we have this mutual love of comics, and for a lot of the creators that you work with. How did you turn that into working with TCAF?
Well, the guy who runs TCAF, Chris Butcher, is amazing. And he runs a store called The Beguiling, which is basically the best comic store in all of Canada. And I also work with retailers. I work with comic stores, and so I have this list of comic stores where I call them and send them an e-newsletter and tell them generally about our books. So of course I met Chris through this, and also through the internet because he's a huge internet commentator. And we became friends, and then I eventually got sucked up into his TCAF project, which is such an awesome thing that I get to work with him and bring all these amazing creators to Canada and to the city of Toronto. And this is just such a wonderful event that I couldn't help but want to work with it.
Has it been a challenge? Because you go to Comic Cons all over the United States, all over the world. Has it been a challenge working with a library setting as opposed to a convention center?
The Toronto Public Library is really great. Most of the work with them I don't really do directly, but the guy we work with here, Abe Velasco, he's amazing, and I wish we could work with him all the time for all of our conventions. It's been a great venue for the festival.
Fantastic. And my last question is, of course, very librarian-y. Of all of the kids' comics you've read in the past year, and I know that you've read a lot of them, what would you recommend as somebody's first comic?
All the kids' comics I've read in the last year.
Well, this is kind of a twisted question. So you can, any comic in the world, what would you recommend as somebody's first?
Okay, well, actually I'm going to talk about a comic that's not out yet, that First Second is going to be publishing, which is a great first comic. It is called Nursery Rhyme Comics, and it is a collection of 50 nursery rhymes that have been adapted into comics format, and we're publishing it in October. So it's a really great transition between nursery rhymes and words on the page and pictures to go along with that. We have some great people like Mike Mignola and Jules Pfeiffer and Roz Chast and the Hernandez brothers and Craig Thompson, and then a lot of First Second creators, Dave Roman, Cyril Pedrosa, Andrew Arnold, the guys who did Adventures in Cartooning for us, and then just a lot of people like Raina Talgmeyer, lots of great comics creators who are going to be doing comics for us for part of this. And it's amazing. It makes a great first comic for everyone, and everyone should pick it up in October.
Great. Thank you so much, Gina, for being willing to talk to me. I really appreciate it. And you were fantastic.
Thanks so much.